Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of plant propagation in horticulture plants. This is the first part of this topic. So in this topic we are going to study about two subtopics, that is stem cutting and leaf cutting, right? So these are the two topics that we are going to cover up in this particular session, that is stem cutting and leaf cutting, right? So how the stem are used for the propagation of new plants in horticulture, and again leaves are also used for the propagation purpose in horticulture. So these two topics we are going to cover up in this particular session. So let us start plant propagation in horticulture plants. Okay, so plant propagation is simply the reproduction or duplication or the multiplication of plant from a source of mother plant. So we are already having a plant, right? This plant, and this plant can be called as mother plant, right? This is a plant and this is called as a mother plant. Now, the part of this plant, whether it could be a stem, right? So this is a branching, okay? This is the branching of the stem. So we can take this branch, means stem part. We can take the stem part. Sometimes we can take the leaf part, right? So what is the ultimate aim of propagation is to produce more plants. Why we are taking this stem, why we are taking this leaf, or sometimes we also take roots also, right? So the different parts of the mother plant can be used to increase the number of plants, right? So that is our ultimate goal of propagation, to increase the number of plant, right? So the fruit plants are propagated both by sexual and asexual means. So we are having the fruit plants in horticulture, right? So that can be propagated either by the sexual method or asexual means. Now, if we are taking this cutting method, for example, stem cutting method or a leaf cutting, right? What we are doing, we are taking a leaf and roots emerges from the lower part of the leaf, right? Or we are taking the stem part, okay? We are putting this in a water for some days, then we see roots are coming out of, and then we can transfer this stem part to the new potted plant or anywhere in the soil, right? So in this way we are getting a new plant in a short duration of time. But if we are going for the sexual method, then what will happen? There will be the pollination process, there will be a fertilization process, then there will be the changing of ovule into seeds, fruits, ovary into fruit, right? And when the fruit ripe, the seed will be sown and the new plant will emerge. The establishment of the new plant takes time. So this is a long procedure, right? Sexual method, it takes long time to establish a fruit plant, right? And we are required fruit plants in great number, and it is in a good demand. So what we must do? We must follow the asexual means of sexual reproduction, right? In sexual method, plants are raised through seeds and such plants are called as seedlings. However, in asexual or vegetative propagation, a part of plant, that could be a leaf, that could be a stem, branch, root, that can be used to develop a new plant, which are called as saplings. This is very, very important. The one that is developed by the help of seeds, that is called as seedlings, and the plant by the asexual method, by the vegetative propagation method, using leaves, stem, branch and roots, okay? So that new plant will be called as saplings. In some crops like potato, mango, cashew, both the seed and the plant part can be used for the multiplication of the planting material. So both the method, that is sexual as well as asexual or vegetative method, both are used to develop a new plant in case of potato, mango, cashew, right? In vegetative propagation, the plant part is placed in such environment that is developed into new plant. Okay, so in this vegetative propagation, we are keeping a plant part, right, in such an environment that it develops into a new plant. So we are taking great care of this environment. You are giving this environment in such a way to the new developing plant that it develops in a good way, right? Healthy plant and a new plant that we can get. For successful propagation of plant, firstly requires a knowledge of mechanical, environmental and chemical manipulation and technical skill that takes a certain amount of practice and experience to master, such as how to bud or graft, how to make cuttings, or how to do layerings. So these are the different procedure that you must be skillful, right? That you must have a knowledge of mechanical, environmental and chemical manipulation, and also there required some technical skill, right, to go for vegetative propagation of plant or asexual method of plant, right? So what are the skills? How to bud or graft, how to graft a plant, how to make cuttings, and how to do layering. For example, these are some of the examples that one must know if we are doing the plant propagation in horticulture. These are some basic knowledge then one must have if he or she is going for the plant propagation in horticulture. So these are considered as a art of propagation, right? So this is considered as art of propagation. Secondly, the knowledge of plant growth, development and morphology is also essential for successful propagation of plant, which refers science of propagation, right? So one must have the knowledge of the plant growth, how the growth of the plant occur, how the development of roots or shoot occur, right? And what is the morphology of the plant, right? What is the anatomy of the plant, how the successful propagation takes place. So all these are the knowledge of propagation. So this comes under the science of propagation, and one must know if he or she is following the plant propagation in horticulture. Third aspect of successful plant propagation is knowledge of different kinds of plant and various possible methods by which a certain plant can be propagated. So the method selected for the propagation must be related to the response of the kind of plant being propagated and to the situation. What does this mean? That one must know the third aspect of the successful plant propagation is knowledge of different kinds of plant and various possible methods that can be used to propagate that particular plant. So if a plant grow with the help of leaves, for example, bryophyllum plant, right? So we all know that bryophyllum plant, this is the leaf of the bryophyllum plant, and there are some notches. These are the notches present on the leaf, and from here the new plant emerges out, right? New plant. Now we know that this particular plant have a capacity to develop a new plant with the help of leaves. Now I want to grow I'm following stem cutting, not for the going for the leaf cutting, but instead we are going for the stem cutting. Is this a wise decision? No. Every plant has its own capacity to develop a new plant. Like bryophyllum is having a capacity to develop new plant with the help of leaves only. Rose, that can develop a new plant with the help of stem cutting, not with the leaf cutting. Right? So this particular knowledge is very, very important, that there are so many types of plant and what is the procedure that can be followed for its asexual or vegetative propagation. What is the means by which we can opt that this particular plant can be grown by the leaf cutting, stem cutting, or root cutting. So this is very important, prior knowledge. Okay, so the purpose of plant propagation, very important. Why we are doing this plant propagation? There are two main purposes of plant propagation. Conservation of germplasm. So there are so many type of plants that lost the capacity to develop the plant with the help of seeds. Okay, so now with the help of vegetative method, with the help of asexual method, we can increase the number of plant. So in that way we are conserving the germplasm of that particular plant. Crop production, we require the crop in large quantity as we are having a great number of population, and day by day we are decreasing the agriculture field, right? Because we need more place to live. So how to compensate that? Right? So we must follow this procedure that can increase the number of crop, right? Increase the production of crop, in fact. So conservation of germplasm. Let us light on this particular term. Germplasm conservation is an important task for saving any species. Very, very important. To save any species, we must conserve its germplasm. Scientists on a crop expedition collect samples of plant material intended to use endeavors. And such materials are often present in small quantities and must be increased and utilize them in research and improvement program, such as developing new plant type. Right? So we are using this germplasm to increase the number of plant, and in that way we are conserving that particular plant. The ultimate goal of conservation is to ensure that the original characteristic of the plants are maintained. So when we are doing this propagation method with the help of germplasm, then we are conserving the original characteristic, the genetic material of that particular plant, because all the characteristics are present on the genetic material only. So we are conserving germplasm. It means we are conserving the original genetic material. The plant multiplication in the large quantity at commercial scale for the production of food material to feed the population is an important continuous process for which appropriate method and material are used. So we require lots and lots of production of the crop, okay, on the commercial scale. So we must follow this. So suppose I'm taking an example. If you are growing a potato crop with the help of seed, so you will sow the seed will come out, there will be a seedling, then there will be taking care of those seedlings, and then there will be growing of the plant, right? It takes time. You just have a tuber, cut the tuber in 4 parts, right? And be sure that there are eyes. Actually, they are the nodes. These eyes, these are the nodes that are present on the tuber of potato. So from there only the new plant in the form of bud comes out. So when you cut this in 4 pieces and each piece are sown in the soil, so from here the new plant emerges. The food material is stored in this tuber, so the plant gets established very quickly, right? The roots comes out and they can give rise a lots and lots of numbers of potato underground. So this is it takes less time, and you can have this potato in the field, and you can have 2 times, right? So in this way, you are growing the potato crop on the commercial scale, right? So in this way, this vegetative propagation is very, very helpful in propagation in horticulture. The goal in propagation in the commercial production is to increase or replicate the source of material. The success of propagation, whether to produce a small and a large quantity, is judged by how closely the progeny of spring plant resemble to the parent plant. So this is one of the quality of the growing crop with the vegetative propagation, that they are similar to their parent plant, because the germ plant from which it has been grown, the parts of the plant that has been used for its growing new plant, that is a part of mother plant only, right? So when it replicate, mean increase the number, it will be same, okay, it will be same as the parent plant or the mother plant. Method of vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation involves the reproduction from the vegetative parts of plant. This propagation method is used successfully because the vegetative organs have capability to regenerate. We have discussed this, that there are so many vegetative parts, that could be a stem, that could be root, leaf, right? So by and large, most of the fruit plants are propagated by one or other vegetative method of plant propagation. So it saves our time. So the first, let us discuss propagation by cutting. Propagation by cutting. A cutting is a detached vegetative part of a plant obtained from any of the 3 primary plant, that is organ stem, leaf or root, which on the separation and planting in suitable medium is able to regenerate the missing part and develops into a new plant. So you can take stem, you can take leaf, you can take root. Any these 3 parts can be used to propagate, right? And this part, when it is used, it is called as cutting, right? So the first one, we are taking stem cutting. Stem cutting are the most commonly used asexual method of propagation in the horticultural crop. So this is the one of the most common method that is used for the propagation in the horticulture. What is that? Stem cutting. The success in the stem cutting multiplication depends upon many factors, such as conditions of the mother plant. What is the condition of the mother plant? If the mother plant is healthy, then you will have a new plant in the same way. And if the mother plant is diseased or old or not healthy, right? So the new plant will be of the same type, right? So be sure that you are taking a healthy plant for the stem cutting. Part of the tree, season, right? It also depend upon the season, care while planting and after care. So care must be there while cutting the stem, while placing the cutting stem in the soil, right? So it means that you must water it properly, you must take care that nutrients are available in the soil, right? So all these things you must be sure. Cutting can be made during the monsoon and spring season. Based on the age, maturity, parts of the plant and tissues, succulency of the detached shoot, stem cuttings are classified as given below. So first point, cutting can be made during the monsoon. Why this monsoon and spring? Because this is a season that promote the propagation, right? Stem cutting. You are taking the stem cutting. So in this particular season, the roots develop fast. And once the root develop fast from the lower base of the stem, this is the stem and this is the new root emerging, new root emerging. So this happen fast in monsoon and spring season, and it helps in establishment of plant to the new soil, right? Once the root is developed, it means that now the plant will be established. It can absorb nutrients. Otherwise, the nutrients that is present in this stem only, that were used for developing a new bud, and from this bud new leaves comes out, new branches comes out. So earlier, whatever the nutrient that is required was present in the stem, that only used. But it require more nutrients to develop, right? So for that, nutrient will be absorbed from the soil. For that, there must be presence of root. So once the root emerges out from the new stem, the plant get established. Softwood cutting of shrubs or the dioecious tree are the herbaceous immature shoots separated from the plants in the growing season. So we are discussing herbaceous soft stem cutting. Herbs means the soft plant, right? So the soft wood cutting of shrubs or herbs or the deciduous trees are the herbaceous immature shoots separated from the plant in the growing season. So they are about 10 to 15 centimeter long. They are not so long. They are just 10 to 15 centimeter long. Terminal 2 to 3 leaves are retained and the rest are removed. So if you are taking this particular stem part, then some of the leaves must be there. Other leaves should be removed out. Retention of leaves are essential because cutting do not have enough food reserves. Okay. So these leaves, when it is put in a water or put in a soil, so at that time when the roots are emerging, these leaves are there. 3-4 leaves are there to do the process of photosynthesis, and it can synthesize food and makes available for growing the plant. So they need special conditions such as shade and humidity for the rooting and to develop into a new plant. So right, so they need shade. Harsh condition is not required, and it also required humidity for rooting and to develop into a new plant. Citrus, cherry, apple, peach, plum, pear, apricot are propagated under the mist chambers by softwood cutting. However, coleus, chrysanthemum, dahlia, carnation, etc. are propagated through the herbaceous method of propagation. So let us discuss the herbaceous soft stem cutting. Herbaceous soft stem cutting. So what is the procedure for this? Select a healthy plant of desired kind. So we have to select one healthy plant, right? Cut and remove the healthy succulent immature 10 to 15 centimeter long shoots 4 to 6 months old from each plant. So you have to take a plant that is 4 to 6 months old and you have to cut a succulent immature that is 10 to 15 centimeter long stem, right? In each softwood cutting, retain 2 to 3 leaves at the terminal and remove rest of the leaves. Why we do? We have already discussed that it helps in the establishment of the plant. At the initially the stem is not having a great amount of food, so these 2-3 leaves that can perform the process of photosynthesis and the food make it available for the growing or establishing the plant. Dip the basal portion of cutting in rooting powder for better and faster rooting. So there is a rooting powder. When you dip the base of the stem to this powder, it helps to grow the root faster. Prepare a sand bed 100 centimeter long, 50 centimeter wide and 20 centimeter high under the shade and water it properly. Plant the cutting in sand bed and spacing that is 7 to 8 and 15 to 18 centimeters. So this is the spacing then we must follow, and we must place this cutting plant in the sand bed. While planting, make sure that the half of the portion of the cutting is buried in the sand. So half of the portion of the stem must be buried and half of the portion must be above, right, like this. So this half of the portion of the stem got buried inside the sand. Lift the cutting 1 month after planting and observe for the rooting at the basal portion. If sufficient numbers of roots are produced, lift them and plant each cutting in a separate pot. So once the plant give rise to new roots, right? So that part can be detached. Okay, that plant can be taken out from that bed and it can be placed to the new soil. So as name implies, semi hardwood cutting. Now we are talking to this was the description about the herbaceous plant. Now the semi hardwood cutting. Okay, as name implies, the semi hardwood cuttings are derived from the partially mature, slightly woody shoots tissue. So this is quite hard, means it is quite woody. So there is a succulent and other tender and are usually prepared from growing wood of the current season, growing of trees and shrubs. So make sure that the plant is of the current growing season, and you must take a succulent and the tender. Succulent, why? Because it must contain an enormous amount of water, right? The plant, that stem must not be dried. It must be succulent. It must a fresh plant, a fresh stem, in fact, right? And it must have a lot of water. That is why it is called a succulent, tender, and usually prepared from growing wood of current season. The fruit plant like mango, guava, lemon, jackfruit, olives, azalea, rhododendron and other broad-leaved green or ornamental etc. are propagated by this method. So we all know these fruits: mango, guava, lemon, jackfruit. Rhododendron is one of the plant that is grown in Uttarakhand. In fact, it is a flower of Uttarakhand, rhododendron, and this flower is used for making a drink also, very famous in that region. So these are some of the fruit plants that can be grown with the help of semi hardwood cutting method. So what is the procedure for this method? Select a new healthy shoots just after flush of growth taken place from a healthy desired plant kind. Cut and remove these healthy shoots, that is 7 to 15 centimeter length, from the plant during the summer. So at the time of summer, you must cut a healthy stem that is 7 to 15 centimeter in length. Retain 2 to 3 terminal leaves and remove the rest of the leaves. So we have discussed this, that we must contain 2-3 leaves and the rest of the leaves from the stem should be removed. Give a slanting basal cut just below the basal node of the cutting. Make sure that if the stem is having nodal region and you have cut from the internode region, so you must cut this particular plant. This particular plant must be removed. This much part must be removed, and now you are having this stem which is having nodal region at this particular point, right? So dip the basal portion of cutting in the rooting powder for the better and faster rooting. Prepare a sand bed that is 100 centimeters long, 50 centimeter wide and 20 centimeter high under the shade, and water it. Water must be available in this sand. So plant the cutting in the sand bed at 7 to 8 into 15 centimeter spacing and allow them for rooting in the bed. So once the root get developed, while planting, assure that the basal 2 nodes of the cutting are inserted in the sand. Very important point. So if this is the nodal region, then 2 more nodal region must be inside the soil. This is the soil region. So this is the 2 other nodal region, right? That must be present below the soil. Lift the cutting from the bed after a month of planting and observe for rooting at the base of the cutting. So once the root is emerged out from this cutting, right, you must observe that, and if sufficient number of roots are produced, lift the cutting and plant each rooted cutting in a separate pot. Shift the pot under the intermittent mist spray or cool moist climate. The cutting wood should be obtained in the cool early morning when the stem is turgid. So this cutting wood should be obtained in the cool early morning when the stem is turgid. Hardwood cutting is the third type, that is the hardwood cutting. Hardwood cutting is derived from the mature or the woody stem material, right? So once the plant is in the form of tree, it is having the hardwood. So it is prepared during the dormant season, usually from 1 year old immature shoot of the previous season growth. So the plant from which we are taking out the stem, it must be 1 year old, and it should be the plant should be taken out in the dormant season. Generally, grape, fig, mulberry, kiwi fruit, pomegranate, olive, quince, hazelnut, chestnut, plum, apple, gooseberry, eclipha, etc. can be propagated through the hardwood cutting. So these are some of the plants that can be taken as a hardwood cutting methods to propagate new plant. What is the procedure? Select healthy shoots of the previous season growth, cut and removed fully mature and lignified shoot of the pencil thickness. So the stem must not be very thick, it must be as thick as a pencil. Make the cutting of 10 to 75 centimeter in length and 0.5 to 2.5 in diameter. So if this is a stem, then it must be having the length that is 10 to 75 centimeter, and the diameter, this is the diameter, that must be 0.5 to 2.5 centimeter. Okay, so when you are cutting a stem from the hardwood, then you must these things in consideration, right? So long cutting should be taken when they are used to rootstock for the fruit trees. Length may also vary according to the length of the internode. Each cutting should have at least 2 to 3 node buds. Give a straight cut at the base of the shoot below the node, while a slanting transverse cut 1 to 2 centimeter above the bud give at the top. Remove all lower basal axillary buds prior to sticking cutting to prevent the sucking from the base of the cutting. So all the lower basal axillary buds prior to the sticking cutting, it must be removed from there. Okay, and dip the basal portion of the cutting in the rooting powder for the better and the faster rooting. So this is the procedure that we are following for all the herbaceous wood cutting, softwood cutting, and also the hardwood cutting, right? Just to have a proper and a faster growing of the root. So prepare a sand bed that is 100 centimeter long, 50 centimeter wide, and 20 centimeter high under the shade or the partial shade or open sun when it is watered properly. So prepare cuttings are planted in the nursery bed at the distance of 10 to 45 centimeter, and during planting ensure that 2/3 of the portion of the cutting with 1 or to 2 basal nodes are buried in the soil, because from the nodal region only the roots are coming out. So it helps to grow the root in a proper way if the nodes are present inside the 1 or 2 nodes are present inside the soil. Water the cutting bed regularly. Lift the cutting after the 2 months of the planting and examine for rooting. So you must take out the plant and see whether it is having the proper growth of the root. So if the sufficient roots are produced, lift the rooted cutting from nursery bed and plant each cutting in a separate pot. Keep the pots in cool, moist placing for rooting. Sprinkle water as and when necessary. Whenever necessary, we can sprinkle the water. Leaf bud, leaf petiole, leaf lamina, and leaf vein, etc. are also used for the propagation of the plant. So till here we have completed the stem cutting. Now we are having the second part of this lecture, that is the leaf cutting. It means that leaves are also used for the propagation of horticulture plant. So the leaf bud, leaf petiole, leaf lamina, leaf vein, etc. are also used for the propagation of the plant. So it is of two types, basically leaf bud cutting and leaf cutting. So the leaf bud, so this is the leaf part, this is one of the leaves, and here it is a bud. So this is called bud, that is used in the leaf bud cutting, right? And the leaf, it means that, and if suppose this is the leaf and we are cutting three parts, then we are having this part as a leaf, then we are having the middle part as a leaf, then we are having the lower part as a leaves, right? So from here the roots may come out, from here the roots may come out, and from the here also the roots may come out. So this is in case of the leaf cutting. So let us study in detail leaf bud cutting. First part, that is the leaf bud cutting. Leaf bud cutting is applicable in the propagating large number of plants. So this again, as a stem cutting is also used to propagate a large number of plants, leaf bud cutting is also used to propagating large number of plants, where the parent material is in the limited or in the species where leaves develop root system and die because of non-development of the shoot system. So leaf bud cutting consists of a leaf blade, petiole, and a shoot piece of the stem which attached axillary bud of an active growing leaf. So this is the stem part, this is the petiole part of the leaf, and this is the main lamina and axil of the leaf. So this is the axil, so this is the bud, that is called as axillary bud, axillary bud. Right? So in case of a small size planting material, 1 to 1.5 centimeter stem portion is used. So this is the 1 to 1.5 centimeter. Okay, so this much size of the stem, which is having a leaf, it is having axillary bud, is used in leaf bud. So the rubber plant, raspberry, lemon, blackberry, kalanchoe, philodendron, etc. can be multiplied by the leaf bud cutting. So you must remember these names as it can be asked in the examination. Then for the leaf bud cutting, which of the following plants can be used? Leaf cutting. Now leaf cutting is also divided into leaf petiole cutting, leaf lamina cutting, vein cutting, etc. The leaf portion is inserted into the rooting material. That could be a soil, that could be a sand. Okay, the leaf is inserted into this media and regenerate as a new plant because it take out a new stem from that part. So the bryophyllum, begonia, Sansevieria, Saint Paulia are classical examples of the propagation through the leaf cutting. These are the some of the plant that is used, propagated by the leaf cutting. So this is all about this lecture. We will have one more, some more lecture for the plant propagation in horticulture plant. Till then, thank you very much.